So the talk today, we are going to talk about God, about feeling God in our life. And I'm going to start talking about a little story. A professor one day came to the classroom and he heard his student talking about God. So they were saying, how come we don't see God? How can we believe in God? We can touch God. How can we believe in God? And especially he heard, how come if I don't see or touch God, how can I feel God? And he noticed that the discussion was getting very hot and very philosophical. So the professor said, hey guys, are you willing to do an experiment? Let's do an experiment about this. So he put 2 transparent glasses full of water for the students in front of the classroom and asked the students, do you know the difference among them? And the students say, no, they are both clear water. And I say, okay. So he gave them 2 spoons for the students, so I want you to taste a little bit of the water. And after several people taste the water and say, can you still affirm they are exactly the same? Hey guys, welcome. And the students say, no, they are different. One is sweet and another one is just plain water. And that's why he said that's exactly about God. He's invisible. You cannot taste it. You cannot touch it. But the only way you're going to notice his presence is to experience them. And the students got quiet. And in this moment he starts saying, noticing that his comments were welcome. He said, God cannot be touched by your hands or measured with tape or weighed in a scale, or can even be seen with your physical eyes. But when we touch a petal of flower, we can feel God. When we smell the perfume, when you becoming aware and noticing how the universe sustains so many constellation galaxies, you feel the weight of God. Just look around and you started to see the dimension of the universe. Definitely you cannot measure in a tape, but just look around the size of our universe. And we can feel God by just feeling the impulse of the waves, the dance of the seasons. So definitely we cannot see eyes with our eyes, but we can feel God by the multiple expression of his goodness around us. Just look in the eyes of his children and you can see the spark of hope. In that moment we feel God. So God is invisible, but his presence can be felt and is evident in several expressions of life. And that's what we're talking about. So this search, many people are searching for God. Many people know God intellectually, but is still searching for God in their heart. How many of us experience moments and say, where is this God? Right? How many months we experience that? And in order for us to find God, to search for God, we needed to search for our real vision. For us to have this perception, to really feel God in our life. We needed to look and start looking life with the eyes of our soul. That's the real vision. So we can connect with our divine essence. That is the spark of divinity that God gave it to us. Each of us has one. And that's the connection we have. Many times we see some piece of art and they should take us speechless, right? Because the artist sees a lot more with his real vision, with the eyes of his soul. He sees more and he's able to express more with his art. So you come to the realization that for us to experience God in our life, to feel close to God, we need this connection, is understanding that it is a way to connect with him, having the eyes of the soul, so we can connect with our divine essence. And require awakening for that to happen. And this is what we are going to contemplate. There are many ways we can connect with God via our conscience. God is here in our conscience. This is a sacred place that we have. That's where lies all the information that God wants us to have in our conscience. That's where lies our divinity, our seed of divinity. That is where our essential self lies. That's where all the information of the laws that God wants us to get in touch right there. So we study many times where lies all the written laws, right, of God is in our conscience. So this is the spark that is the storage and the most intimate, sacred place we have within. And it is an immense power within. And that's what it's all about as growing our evolution, to connect with that divine essence so we can access this divine power that God gave us. Is our right birth. And through this divine spark, we are child of God, that we can manifest this internal guidance that is available for us. That's the way God connects with us. There is this divine guidance that takes us to the path of goodness, to the path of what is fair, the justice. And that's the path of the truth that our spirit is here for, to search for, to learn. So many things is within, but we need to connect and commit it to unfold the power that is in this spark of divinity. And when we start to cultivate this spark of divinity, I'm saying the correct way? Divinity, I apologize. Divinity, the spark of divinity. When we cultivate that in our daily life, this light starts illuminating our spirits. We start to bring this light to our limitations, to our shadows. And that's why we start increasing our steps of evolution. And when we do that, we increase our ability to feel. We get more in touch with ourselves, with our feelings. And then, only then, we start feeling God in our life. We start feeling His hand guiding us and directing our life. So slowly, we assess this. Oh, pardon me. Slowly, we start understanding this inner guidance. And many times, how many times we feel lost in life? We don't know what to do. We go for external guidance, right? How many times we fail to connect with this inner guidance? There is a very boundless source of abundant love to guide us. But we are disconnected. We look external. And this is the way God can talk to us. That's the way you can get closer to God in our daily life. However, this is the problem. Many of us are under an influence of the ego. We have a lot of desires, a lot of things that we put our attention on, and we get to disconnect. So many of our thoughts is agitated with waves of anxiety, fears, and that blocks us. It's like it creates a blanket of fears around our seed of light, and we feel disconnected. That's why we feel like connected. We feel, what is this God? But it's buried in our waves of anxiety, our turbulent thoughts, and our so many things that we forgot. It's like the door of our conscience that in that sacred place is calm, is serene, it is empowered, closed down. So much fear, so many difficulties, so many desires, so many confusion. We kind of close that door and block the connection, not just with God, but the connection with our essential self. And a lot of funny things happen when we do that. And from that space, it's almost impossible to hear God, to hear the intuition of the good spirits. Can you imagine feeling God from that space? So we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware that it is our responsibility to calm our thoughts, to silence ourselves so we can get in touch, listen to our conscience. That's a sure way that we are going to connect with God. There is no more effective guidance because it's just between us and God. And of course, we always want some advice from others. We all want to share. And all the viewpoints help us to expand our understanding of the situation we are in. But the final word is this internal guidance. When we connect and search for this connection, the true abundant love that our Father offers through our conscience, that guidance can take us to the next step. It's a sure thing. Another way for us to feel God is through our knowledge. In the book, The Consoler, I'm not sure if there is in English, but it's a wonderful book in Portuguese. In the questions 204, they ask, can the soul be elevated to God only by moral progress without the intellectual values? And the answer is the feeling and wisdom are the two wings that will elevate the soul to infinite perfection. So we have the understanding that we have two wings. One is the moral wing and the other one intellectual wing. And they are both going to take us to our perfection, close to God. That's our final destination. We are all created very simple without knowledge, and it's our responsibility through the incarnations to acquire the knowledge that's going to educate our spirit and work towards our morality that combined with the knowledge, intellectual wings, is going to take us to the right direction. Because the intellectually alone, it might take us to great goals, but only alone it might misguide us in our actions. So many people has used that intelligence to hurt others, to take advantage of others. So when we bring the morality together, we start to find in the balance. But we needed the knowledge to educate ourselves to improve our morality. Many times it's both ways. We need our morality to improve our advance intellectually. So these two wings go together. And not ours go in the same level. Sometimes we go a little here, sometimes we go a little bit more, but eventually in the long run they're going to balance it out. So it's our responsibility, spirit, for our own evolution to educate ourselves. One example of that is having the learning and understanding of the natural laws. When you start in understanding the law of cause and effect, we start to be more responsible in our actions, and that brings us more morality. How many times we try to help people and we kind of don't know, we think we are helping, but we are kind of confusing their life? How many we experience that? And when we started to educate ourselves, we start saying, no, just a minute, that is their lesson, and we have more empathy rather than feel sorry for them. So there are a lot of going on in understanding the knowledge for us. And more that we are educating ourselves, we have more perception that what is right and what's wrong. What creates goodness and what creates wrongdoing. So with this knowledge, we have more chance to choose the path that is going to connect us more to God. Because sometimes just by reading books just give us understand. But when we put it together and apply the knowledge with the morality, we start to comprehend. And that's our goal, to have the knowledge to help us to comprehend the laws that's going to take us closer to God. That's very important. And of course, it leads us step by step, eventually, in the process of our progress, both is going to take us closer to God. And that's the fly we're going to do. Who's flying lately? A little higher, huh? And also another way for us that you connect with God is via pain, in our pain. We have lived several incarnations without conquering our real vision, right? Not knowing that it's our responsibility to feed our soul. Many of us didn't even know we have a soul, right? We lived many incarnations being unaware of the presence of God and His guidance in our life. And we miss all that, living just through the material eyes with the material needs. And that brings us to consequences. There are consequences when we don't follow the laws of God. And we have moments of pain. The law of progress brings us some pain because God wants us to grow. God wants us to be more aware, to be awakened to the truth, right? So when we are not searching for that, when we're not being aware, the consequences, we have a little push. It's like when a child is sick and needs some strong medicine, right? Sometimes this pain is like a strong medicine for our soul to awake. Many times the child doesn't want to go to school, right? And the mother says, you have no choice. That's the way you go to school. You need to learn this, right? It's an act of love. And many times we experience a crisis in our lives, trials, because we don't have this understanding. Welcome. And many of us still need a tough lesson of the adversity to wake up and say, wait a minute, we must have something more here. Let me check it out. And that's the way we feel a little closer. And when we experience these difficult days that we have those big bumps in our life, that's the moment we feel a little more humble. And we feel a need to connect with one another, right? Sometimes when we share a moment of the pain, that's what we truly feel like brothers and sisters in that moment of connection and support, right? Awaken on us a little bit. And when we understand in these moments, if life is squishing us to a corner that looks like have nowhere to go, guess what? It's a wake-up call. It's like God say, wake up, wake up. Where have you been? Why we are not here connecting? It is a way to awaken that spark of divinity on us. And when we understand that, again, okay, let me change that 10 minutes for 4 hours. You see, we expand all the time. I didn't see that before. So, let me see where I was here. So in these moments, it's an opportunity for us to get a little humble. Because many of us, do you remember when you're a teenager and you have the feeling, God, don't need anybody and anything, I can do everything? We have lived in many incarnations like that. What we look back today is just a teenage behavior, but that's the way we are little spiritual children. We still have that feeling, I don't need anybody, I don't need anyone. And that's when we have a big bump in life to humble us, to bring a goodness on us, but for us to connect in the moment of this pain. If we are humble, if you heal, if we kneel in spirit in front of God and say, God, I'm here now. Help me to feel your presence and your grace. Help me with your loving hands, because I'm not doing good on my own. If you sincere ask, help me right here and now. And in this moment, here and then, we can end our suffering. In that moment, we can avoid a lot of unnecessary suffering in our life, just because we start connecting with our Father. Because in that moment, when we kneel in our spirit and say, I need help and I need it now. Help me, Father. That humbleness break a big layer of our pride and our selfishness. And that is the biggest enemy against our connection with our Father. This is the enemy. This is the combat. is a life purpose for us to combat our selfishness, our pride, that create a lot of moral vices. Make us want more than here now. Make us work like there is no tomorrow, forgetting about our spiritual life. Make us desire more and more, want the better car, the better job, the better house. Forget to look around and connect with God. Those are the enemies that cover our spark of divinity, that does not allow us to connect and make us forget about God. So this is the moment that we have to understand when we are in pain. It is like a sweet, tough love from God to wake us up, to say, stop fooling around, here's the time, he's here now. We all know about that, right? Who hasn't experienced tough moments, huh? So we all know what that feels like. And the good news, we can transform that just by connecting with our Father, just to feel God. Because when we feel God in that moment, no matter how hard the trial is, how difficult, we understand is a gift for unfolding even further our conscience. It's an awakening for our spirit, so we stop feeling sorry for ourselves, stop feeling like a victim, and have the understanding this is the consequence of the loss that I deviate from. In the moment that we committed to walk through in alignment with the divine laws, the unnecessary suffering dissolve, and we feel His guidance, we feel His protection, and that's what we need to feel encouraged. That's what we need to feel hope, and that's what we need to do like this and transform whatever is necessary, whatever is in our domain. Because what is not in our domain, then we put in the hands of God and trust His guidance. Works really good for me. I hope it works for you too, guys. Another way for us to connect with God is through the message of the nature. Anytime, any moment that we feel a need to connect with God or to expand our connection with our Father, just go around and walk in the nature. Just feel the nature around you. Just contemplate whatever it is. If you sit by the sea, contemplate the force of the waves, comes and goes. Just feel that. Just look around and look at the sky full of stars and feel the grandiosity of our Father, the immense power and abundant love to bring that beauty to all of His children. Just walking around and feel the wind in your face and feel as if God is hugging you. Live and walk in the nature, determined to connect with God, and you'll be so touched by it. It's going to bring your spirit in tears because it's an abundant way that God communicates with us. He's always here. We are the one who is not synchronized with Him. And after all that, if you still cannot feel God, sit under the tree and contemplate, what am I missing here? Where's my priorities? Where I've been dedicating my attention to? With what am I committing to? What's priority in my life? There is something that we need to learn. And contemplate, and the lesson will come to you. And just by contemplating, you feel God. Whether you notice or not, God is there with you. Another way to feel God is through charity. So many times we think about, oh, it's so hard to do charity, because it's an exercise. We need to practice and create a habit. And many times it's so hard to do it, right? But the charity I'm talking about here is not that easy charity that put your hand in your pocket and give some money. Mission accomplished. No, that's very easy to do. And I'm talking about that kind of charity that we do when a hurricane passes by, everybody do a little good, right? That's easy too, because we feel taken by the moment. The charity we're talking about here, that is a little bit harder to do, is the moral charity. You go around and you look at our brothers and sisters and accept it, who she or she is, exactly right there, in that moment of her evolution. Accepted our brothers and sisters, even though they have a different opinion than us, and we respect that. That's the kind of charity that I'm talking about. The charity that we look and you see in he's a child of God just like me, no better, no worse. Doesn't matter in which state of point of evolution he is my brother. She's my sister. Doesn't matter. That's the charity I'm talking about. And the charity that is so hard to practice in the traffic when you're in a hurry and the guy is talking on the cellular so slow, right? In the supermarket when you're starving to go home and the person is taking so long. That's the charity. It's so hard for us to practice, right? The charity that it would be lovely to practice at work when we have a difficult boss, or at home and when you confront a difficult spouse or a difficult child. That's the charity I'm talking about. And Emmanuel has a wonderful, wonderful message. He said, the charity is a very difficult task to learn in our life, because it comes in a moment that you are not least prepared. So many times we encounter a sad person, and that's right there opportunity for us to encourage someone. When we know someone is sick, pay them a visit. When someone is being very proud and asking, who do you think you are? To give that person a token of humbleness and not to respond to that. So many opportunities that is, someone is attacking us, is a charity to silence and not to buy that vibration of aggressivity. But it's so hard to be silent, isn't it, in that moment? So, in reality, love, charity is love in action, constantly manifesting, constantly growing. And that's what we are talking about in our relationship with God. It's nothing different, right? It is a difficult task to do, but has to be constantly manifesting and constantly growing. We need to pursue that in our life. And still, many of us have so many struggles to feel God, because we let something come up in our relationship. We kind of feel numb with our own difficulties, with our ego. All that blanket of fears and anxiety end up numbing our feeling. Our true feeling is buried up there. And we have so many other things there, and it feels so hard. So one way for us to soften the heart that got crystallized, it is for us to start really looking around and start to have a little compassion and empathy for the suffering of others. Because that's going to help us to synchronize our heart with God. Because when you really have the ability to truly listen, all of us are so much needed to be heard, especially in our moments of pain. That's why so many people talk about them. People love to tell their stories, because they are just starving to be heard. And if we are able to stop a moment in our life to truly hear their pain, help them to feel heard without any hurry to present a viewpoint, any hurry to present a solution, just hear them, allow them to pour their heart. And you are going to feel something that's going to touch you inside. And when you feel touched by that, that softens a little bit our heart. And that is going to expand our sensibility a little more, awaken our feelings that have been numbed by unnecessary suffering, by resisting what's happening to us. So we start to open a little bit the door of our heart. We open a little bit more our conscience, expand our consciousness a little more. And from that space, a little bit more sensibilizado, how do I say that? Sensitive. Be more sensitive. You feel touched by that feeling when you truly feel the pain of others. That is a moment that we feel close to God. That's the movement that's going to connect us more with God. And for that, we need to forget a little bit about ourselves. We need to forget a little bit about ourselves to be able to have ears to hear. We need to forget a little bit about yourself to have eyes to see. Because for many of us, we spend so many incarnations, so many just about us. It's all about us. But when we start to soften a little bit our heart and we start to looking around, we don't miss the opportunities that God presented to us to soften a little bit our heart while we're learning to love a little bit better one another. And the charity is a wonderful way to help us to connect with God, because it's a practice, it's an exercise. Every day a little bit, one drop. Create a habit. And from that movement, we are going to start to be a lot more grateful for what we have. And in the moment that you have nothing to give, and you still find from the most intimate, sacred place you have inside of you to give one spark of attention to someone in need of a good loving vibration, you'll be amazingly surprised how much that's going to feed your soul. You'll be so surprised, and out of the blue, it looks like a whole layer of feelings come up. And from that fluidity of feelings, you feel God again. Many of us has been so much locked in our difficulties. We feel locked in our own fears, our own thoughts, that we miss all these opportunities. And if we are missing all this opportunity that is present itself with our brothers and sisters, imagine if we can listen to the intuition of the good spirits. They are right there. But we are so involved in our own little things, in our covered heart. No ears to hear. The good spirits are always with us. They want us to succeed. They are ready there. They are the voice of God to inspire us, to guide us, to give us as many advice as we want to access. But we don't hear. They are right there screaming, but we just pass by, we don't see it. They follow us, but we run. You know what I mean? We miss all the opportunities. And if we miss the good spirits that are here, near us, imagine God. So we need to soften our heart. We need to start having ears to hear. And when we do that, we connect with others and we help one another. We start to figure, like that place that touching our heart when we connect and help someone, make us in touch with a more elevated vibration. And from that space that is potentialized by the good spirits, because they want to help everyone that is choosing the path of love. They want to support everyone that is committed with their inner transformation. They want to commit it with anyone that is searching to a more evolved vibration learning. They are there. And more we do that, the more embrace we feel with this high vibration. And when you feel this vibration, you want a little more. And you feel and you do the things that you need to do, making the choices from the right door, the narrow door. We expand a little more. Our heart feels more. We want more. Because it's a wonderful vibration to be in. And that's the message that Jesus brought to us. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? This is a path that's going to take us closer and closer to God. It is an exercise that surely is going to soften our spirit. And this is the path for sure that will take us to God. And for that, it is an invitation for us to simplify our lives. Simplify means eliminating the unnecessary suffering, unnecessary material needs, unnecessary distractions. We have distracted us long enough. Now is the time for us to focus and making this seed of light, this spark of divinity to shine through. And knowing there is no, like the gospel says, there is no salvation without charity. So a plus, we get a better place up there. Another way for sure that everybody knows how to is to connect with God through our prayers. The prayer is an action of adoration. Is to think about God, to communicate with God, to get close to God. And it's so powerful that you don't need a place, you don't need words. What God truly connect with us and we connect with God is through our feelings. We might not even need to say a word, but have the sincere feelings in our heart. We are already communicating with God. And many people has different ways of looking at prayer. Some people, like I do my little prayer in the morning, okay, I'm all done. I fed my spirit. Many people just ask, forget to thank you, Lord, for the blessings. There are so many ways, the possibility for us to learn in the gospel. There is so many information in the Spirit's book, how to pray and the effectiveness of the prayer. The bottom line is the moment that we knew in the Spirit and connect with our Father. And He looks and feel our thoughts in our hearts. And when we do a heartfelt prayer, asking guidance and thank you, in a moment of seclusion and solitude, we found the most rewarding connections with our Father. And in our last one, feeding our spirit, we want to remind one another that in the moment of our struggles, in the middle of our suffering, in that moment that we think there is no way out, we want to remind it that we are never alone. Even if you don't feel God, His hand is right there with you. His loving care is our present with us, even if we cannot feel it. So that doesn't mean God is not with us. We are not synchronized with Him, but He is always there. He has this abundant hand that cares for us, that guide us, this loving guiding hand giving us all the opportunity for us to learn by ourselves. He never takes any choice from us. He gave us the free will for us to choose the right steps, to make the right decisions, for us to go through our evolution through our own legs, through our own step, but He's always there. If you take the right path, He's right there with you. If you take the wrong path, He's right there with you, because He knows that our final destination is perfection. We are His children, and He's nothing more than perfection. He knows, He waits for us to learn. His patient, His loving care. And He knows, slowly, step by step, all of us are going to walk in the direction of this immense power, love, and guidance light inside of us. But just for you to know, for us to perceive this loving, wonderful, grandiosity, force that guide us every single day. We need to learn to perceive more. We need to feel our spirit, so our divine and abundant love is connected with His divine abundant love. Because this magnanimous presence, it is in the love, in the plenitude of love. We need to awaken the plenitude of love in our life. So all of us need to nourish our material need, but it is imperative that we learn to nourish our spirit needs. And here's the time with this talk. I hope we have contributed for all of us. Try to bring God from here to here. The most important in our words, in our actions, in our connection with the brothers and sisters. So one day, through the renovation of ourselves, bringing more light to our shadows, we can very soon to say, just like Jesus did, just like Jesus said, I'm in one with my Father. And that is the talk for today. And we are open for some questions. You might have some comments or questions. Now is the time.